Today we're back here in the Riverview metropolitan area to tackle a very complex piece of infrastructure that I have been postponing for the longest time. I'm talking about the implementation of a commuter rail that is going to start at the central station in downtown Riverview, service downtown East Riverview, and terminate all the way out here in the sleepy suburb of Kendrick. And if this project rings a bell, it's because we actually had a vote about this many months ago here on the channel, and I've just been way too scared to try and tackle it. Now I'm gonna explain why I've been a little scared of this project right after this friendly reminder to like this video if you enjoy my content. It's a small thing, but it really helps out. Thank you. Anyways, on to all my excuses and the explanation. So the thing with this rail line is that if we want to serve East Riverview as well as Kendrick, we have to put down all the infrastructure right from the get-go, because there currently is no rail lines that actually service this. We can't utilize old rail lines or old infrastructure. We have to build everything from scratch. And of course, the issue is that the central station here in downtown Riverview is squeezed in between skyscrapers and two important bridges, as well as an important highway. You can just see the amount of usage here, and it's not even rush hour. So we somehow have to kind of bridge out a new rail line that crosses this river here, somewhere alongside this the Blackwell Bridge here, then services downtown East Riverview. Perhaps with an elevated station, we're gonna have to do something where we don't have to demolish half of downtown at least. Then we have to move through the suburbs of East Riverview, and we either have to go fully elevated, which I'm not sure I want, or we are gonna have to demolish some stuff, which I might want. I'm not really quite sure. And then it gets a little easier because we can move through some of this rural farmland here, which is, you know, there's a lot of forest here. We can cut that down. We're humans after all. We're gonna wreck nature to build our infrastructure. And then placing the actual station out here in Kendrick is probably not gonna be too much of a problem either, because we do actually have some space here on the riverbank. But overall, there's no way around it. We're gonna have to make some big changes to actually make this rail line a reality. Oh, and if you stick around to the end, we're going to implement some of the wonderful feedback you guys provided on the most recent Riverview episode. Alright, so we might as well try to tackle the most complex part of the new rail line first, which I think is going to be the parallel rail bridge we need to construct here near the Blackwell Bridge. Because as we make our way ashore here, we need to connect up to the existing rail line, and we probably need to do so in both directions so that potentially, you know, we can also connect East Riverview with the rail line that reaches the airport and outside connections. And this is going to be very complex. It's quite hilly. There's a lot of development. There's a lot of existing infrastructure. So that's one of the big ones. But there's a small thing, a small change I kind of want to do first. That is a little unrelated. It's more related to the actual central station here in Riverview, because for a city this size, the central station just looks a little underwhelming. It kind of needs a bit of a customized look. I hope you guys agree. So I'm just gonna do something real quick here. We're not gonna spend too much time doing this, but I'm gonna move into buildings. We are gonna go for some high density. I think we'll go for a maximum lot size. Let's see what we can find. And then I kind of just want to stitch on some buildings to the actual station here, because that is going to make it look a lot more built up, you know. And I think maybe, can we go for some like offices? I think I have some like medium density ones. Let's just see. The reason I want to use these medium density offices I grabbed from PDX mods is that if you check my demand bar down in the left, I have a ton of demand for offices. So that's what we're going for. I just need to find the right building now. Okay, so I think we're going to try and combine a few buildings. What I'm thinking is, if we use this one, so let's just see, we'll put one all the way out here, and then we'll move, we can stitch them together actually. It's gonna be a massive structure, you know, when you see huge cities, very dense cities, The central station, especially if you look towards, you know, a place like Japan, is usually extremely built up. You know, it's its own high density structure with like a ton of offices, maybe even some living space as well. And that's kind of the look we're gonna try and mimic here. So we're gonna stitch on the last one here. I'm gonna move them a bit so we don't have this sea fighting. You're seeing some of the textures looking a little weird. And then I think it was this one I want to use as well. So I'm gonna enable snapping again, and then I'm gonna add these with a bit of distance in between. So we'll have one here, we'll move over, add an additional one, we'll move over, we'll add one. Let's see, actually maybe we'll just go for 2, or we'll go for 3 with the same. I think there's about the same amount of space between them. I can just move them a little bit. It took a little tweaking, but we got there eventually. And if there's something I just kind of want to add as like a finishing touch, it's some sort of like high density residential building to just help a bit with our residential demand. And we've got a few nice options here. We could add this one to kind of cover up the parking lot, or the, you know, most of the parking lot, which I'm kind of inclined to actually do. And, you know, get a building here in this corner lot. I think that would be nice. So I'm gonna place this and we'll see how that acts. There you go. And then we're gonna move in with the better Bulldozer, and we're actually going to get rid of some of the surface parking here. That is, you know, a part of the actual train station. All right, now we just need like a uniform color scheme for all these buildings. I want to grab something that is kind of white, maybe this building here. We will just copy this. I think I'll add it to this building. Just make sure it's kind of, all of it is kind of bright actually. Maybe something like this. And then just make sure that it kind of has its own look, all of them, including the residential tower, so that it looks like one development. And I think, you know, this tied in decently well together. And as we zoom out, it's not perfect, you know, it's only taken a couple of minutes, but I think it's a much more substantial central station than before. Just gonna make it look maybe a little better by getting rid of some of all these bushes that are a part of the 500 different assets we now have down here. And then we're gonna grab a linden tree here just so that we have like, or actually just the linden is probably pretty good. I just kind of want a uniform look with the same tree throughout. But it goes without saying that, you know, this area would benefit from a little more detailing. And if we have the time for it, we might actually also do that later on in this episode. But for now, it's mainly about like the macro perspective. I just want the station to look massive, and it does. But just look how busy this transportation hub is. That is so cool. We've even got a freight train waiting to be able to go through one of the platforms, which I guess isn't ideal, but so much activity, and there has to be like 5,000 people down here by now, which is pretty crazy. But having tackled this fun little rejuvenation project for the train station, it's time to work a bit on the bridge here. So I think the very first thing I want to do is just create a few segments of rail bridge that align closely to Blackwell Bridge, just so we ensure we have proper clearance for ships that we are never going to see, because there is no actual ship path here. But we are role-playing that we have a couple of... Oh, wait, that's right. These river ports here, they only service pretty low-level barges that can actually cross underneath here as well as over here. So it's not super important that our train bridge is as tall as the Blackwell Bridge. But I guess for aesthetics, it's probably not a bad idea either. Anyways, let's grab our double train track. I'm pretty sure this bridge is like 40 meters tall. Yeah, that seems to be about right. So if we were to align it properly, we could do something like that. Although I'm kind of tempted to actually have the trains go underneath the bridge. I'm just gonna try something here, guys. That may not work at all. Actually, this isn't gonna work. I'm gonna have to move it underneath it, and then I'm gonna have to remove these pillars and go for a completely custom setup. So do I want to do that? I think we're gonna give it a try. Okay, so this is certainly gonna be interesting. We are just going to align a main segment here real close to the Blackwell car bridge. Just gonna place this, then we're gonna pause, then we're going to move it. We'll grab these 4 nodes here, and it's gonna be a little tricky as we move them in here, but we can see the UI from Move It poke through here, so I can pretty much align it perfectly underneath. And since I placed it at 30 meters of height, that leaves just about enough rooms for like the trains and the catenaries. I think the big joker here, of course, is that I need to be able to remove this pillar and then replace it with a pillar that actually looks like it can support, you know, the Blackwell bridge. And I'm not sure I can find that, but we're gonna give it a go. Let's see. This is weird. Probably not gonna work. These ones could probably work, actually. I think I'm just gonna try and place 2 on like either side here, and then we're going to elevate them so that they clip into the bridge properly, so to speak. And then let's just grab the 2 of them and we'll elevate them. Oh, they're not at the same height, but I guess that's okay. And let's see, we'll need to do a bit of adjustment here. So this one, we'll start by adjusting the one closest to the camera currently. Just bring that down to about this level, I think. And then we'll click the other one here, Control H, and then click this one so that we get the exact same height. And then it's just a matter of trying to align them in the same way. And let's have a look. I mean, it's not perfect. Can we colorize this one? Unfortunately, we can't. So it has a bit of a different color than the rest of the structure. It's not a massive issue, and we can actually remove these pillars as well if we wanted to. Oh man, this one is tricky. Are we gonna go for this setup? Yeah, we're gonna do this. As if this project wasn't complex enough. I'm gonna get rid of a couple of these pillars. Then what I think I'm gonna do is I am going to bring back our little train segment here. We're gonna just move that out because we need to expand it. And I think, I mean, I have to kind of do everything like in a regular fashion where we're not underneath the bridge, and then just kind of move everything underneath the bridge. So just bear with me here. It's gonna look a little odd, I get that. So I'm just gonna add this segment. I'd rather have a bit too much instead of too little, because I can always remove segments. Okay, so we're going to grab, we're gonna say filters, we're gonna say nodes, and then we're gonna grab each and every node here. And we're gonna make sure that it's at the very same height as some of these central nodes, some of the first ones we created. So now that I have them all selected, I'm gonna say Control H and click this one. And that kind of works, you know? Kind of works, I guess is is the code word here. And then we try to align this as well as possible to the very center here, but it's not like it's impossible to use Move It to adjust a thing or two. So it's not that finicky, but could get kind of finicky in here. And do we have clearance here to kind of get out, do a bit of an elevation and enter an elevated station? I think we do. So I want to do something that I think is a little easier now than connecting these pieces up, which is creating the elevated station here in East Riverview and getting that connected, because that's also just gonna look really cool. So let's have a look. Let's find the bad boy we need. We have a small elevated train station. And there's no way around to demolishing some stuff for this. But we can save some of the high rises and density surrounding the roundabout here by, I think, by just adding in like another road that we can then place this train station at. So like if I enable Anarchy so that I can place the station like this at a bit of an angle, I think that is gonna look the best. And it's going to be the easiest to connect to. So I'm just gonna try and place this. And we're just gonna zoom in and see how much we messed up. And it's not too bad. We'll need to get rid of a couple of buildings, obviously. Something like this, maybe even this one. And then we'll need to, of course, get a road connection going. So I'm just gonna quickly remove that road there. And we'll grab a basic 2-lane road at a 90-degree angle, and that did get the connection right. You can connect to either side here, which makes it fairly easy to work with. Let's just get this pedestrian path here connected up. Oh, it's not gonna work, or what? Is that because the path is gonna go, it's gonna go straight through station then? Yeah, we can't have that, I guess. Let's just see, can I grab from disable snapping, then let me move across. Thank you very much. 90 degrees. There you go. And I guess we can just do something like this. That's good enough. That's the least of our worries currently. Anyways, we have to, unfortunately, actually, can we save this beautiful building? Because then I guess we want to try and save this beautiful building. So if I can just squeeze that real close here, then I think, yeah, we can move past that. All right, so now's the fun part, getting this connection right, and hopefully without too much of an elevation. I ideally don't want to go, more extreme than 3%. Then it's gonna start getting a little unrealistic. And we always bend realism a little bit if it's too much in the way, so to speak. But I kind of want to try and adhere to this at least. I'm going to select the complex curve. Then I'm going to select this constant slope tool. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move about halfway. Oh, wait, I don't know where oh, there it is. Yeah, right. It's unfortunately complaining of a lack of connection. So that's kind of helping me. I kind of want to move halfway out here. I'm gonna click once, then I'll move up here. It seems like it's actually trying to align, so I'm gonna click again. And then the moment of truth is whether we can just make a completely normal connection here. I excuse the camera angle. And that looks about right. And we'll see. Ooh, that's not great, is it? Yeah, that's not gonna work. We gave it a go, guys, but we're gonna need more space. So I'm going to delete this segment, and of course these. And then I guess, I'm not sure this building will actually get to live. I mean, I guess we could continue with our preservation efforts and just try and move it. And we'll try and move this one, although this one is probably not gonna survive. Let's get rid of better Bulldozer. We'll get rid of this pillar here, and we are going to try to do the very same thing, but this time we should have a little more space. So we're gonna branch out. We're gonna go, maybe this time we'll go a bit further than halfway so that it moves away from being underneath the bridge a little sooner. That is going to maybe help. I'm gonna click. Move up here until I get an alignment, and then let's see if this is gonna work. There's the connection. I'm gonna click, and we're getting so close. So I may have to just kind of make a little adjustment here and see if that could work. Well, let's see, can I actually find the node? So there's a node here at least, which I am going to move down. Same with this node here. I'll need to grab the actual segment as well to change that. Yeah, I'm gonna tweak a few things and get back to you guys. All right, so I know I said that we can compromise on realism, but we're looking at like 8% here, which I think is a little too excessive. So I think one way we might be able to fix this is if we continue this road for something like this. Just get this connection up. We're gonna unfortunately have to remove these, of course. Then we'll grab the station. If I can. Okay, never mind. I don't know how to grab a train station in City Skylines, so we're going to place it on our own. I guess the question now is if I shouldn't just place it directly, like align it as the game wants to, because then it's going to also move a bit across the street that it's aligned to, which is going to look like it's a little better fit here. So yeah, that's probably better. Let's just we'll get rid of this stuff here. And then I'm hopeful that if I elevate this one ever so slightly, that is going to be an easier access point, and it's not gonna be 8% at least. I say that, but this is the moment of truth. We're down to about 5%, which is a lot better. Certainly not perfect, but I don't think it's gonna get any better than this. Not with the space we have available here. Everything is just such a tight squeeze around these parts. I mean, we can barely just save this building. I guess if there's like a saving grace or whatever you'd say to the 5%er, it is that this is only going to be a commuter rail line. We won't see any freight traffic here, which makes sense because large freight trains would not be able to climb 5%, that's for sure. But commuter rail, possibly. I'm wondering if I can I like stretch this node? Is that actually, yeah, that's possible. Make that look a little better. There you go. And we've got a station here in downtown East Riverview, and we didn't demolish all that much. I mean, we displaced maybe 500 people or something. But yeah, there are plenty of parks where they can set up their tents because we are building a new rail line. And then there's this connection here. Yeah, I mean, I guess to start off with, I'm just going to try to drag this one out. We're gonna move it to ground level. We're gonna go for 180 degrees. And I am just gonna try. So elevation wise, we're looking okay. I can get to about 2%. And so I think I'm just gonna do that and click. I am gonna take a small win if I can. I'm gonna try and do the very same thing for this segment here. See if I can. 2% is gonna be a little easier here, it seems, because this section here is probably elevated due to the elevation down here. I'm just gonna click, and yeah, that's not fantastic. I'll give you that much. It's actually not great. But with a little move it magic, it's not bad either. I've done a bit of tweaking with Move It here just to get this to look all right, but we may have to redo it as the turns are probably a little sharp, although you aren't really meant to go through this area at very high speeds. And you know, the first victim of this part of the rail line is, let's see, who actually lives here? The Piper family. Larry Piper, a poorly educated senior, is now homeless. but we have a new train line. We've jumped over here to downtown East Riverview, where it seems like things have slowly started developing along this mess we created. We removed quite a few buildings, so I'm seeing a small drop in population, but most of it was zoned, so it's kind of just popping up again. And I mean, there's an overall drop in population just due to the footprint of the actual station. But I think it's fine, and I mean, we could always densify downtown East Riverview a bit, but I guess that's for another time. Anyways, we need to bring the new rail line through the suburban sprawl of East Riverview, and the big decision here was whether we should have it at like surface level, which is going to be complex given the existing developments, or whether we should just run it through as an elevated segment. And I think I might do both, well, which means that alongside this, I mean, in this general area where we do have quite a bit of development, it's going to be elevated to cause the least amount of havoc as possible. Yes, I know that's weird hearing me say that, but to cause the least amount of havoc as possible. And then as we start reaching Callaway and Palmer Way and Birdsong Corner, you know, we're probably going to drop it down to a surface level, because it's going to be a little less intrusive when we break stuff out here, because the population density is lower. So just like in real life, there are less people out here to lobby for their own interests. So as politicians and as a mayor, I could just kind of do what I want here. Very realistic. So what I would like to try is to see, we've got this road here called Summit Highway. Yeah, auto naming for the win. And I would like to see if we can have like an elevated segment of the train track that travels alongside much of this road here. Because, I mean, I guess that's going to cause the least amount of issues. Then the big one is whether we need to be 10 meters above, which we may not have to. We could probably go for 875. So I think we're gonna try and do that. So let's just see, we've got the line here, then we're gonna need a curve of some sort. So I guess if we just build a big segment here that follows along the road here, and we move, I guess this is a, oh wait, I think we're gonna turn around here. We have this small commercial center we built a bunch of episodes ago. I think this might just be the place where we are going to transition. Now, how are we going to do this? Well, this is odd because I've just created this little lake, but I think we're going to grab a tiny bit of this lake here, and then we are going to create a segment here that is at ground level, basically. And I think we're just gonna move through here as well. Something like this. And then I'm going to see if I can, I don't, oh, how's this gonna look? Okay, let's just try this out. Yeah, I know we're eminent domaining a few people, but I mean, we have to, you know. 180, and can I bring that up here? Let's elevate this to 875, bring that together and click, and we'll get rid of these poor folks and these poor oaks, and I guess this building can just about stay. We're probably gonna have to clean this up a little bit, but generally I think this looks all right. Then there's this connection up here, which might be just a little more tricky. And I don't really think there's much to do here other than having to remove some of these houses. But we will see. I mean, we can start by just mapping this out and trying to get the smoothest curve we can. Oh, it's not going to snap to this one. Well, that is going to make it... there you go. Smooth curve. Click, straight segment, smooth transition, click, and yeah, I mean, this house has to go, and a few other houses, but otherwise not too bad. And this is a relatively modern suburban, single developer suburban development. So I imagine that, you know, they wouldn't mind building it very close to the elevated train track, because there's still going to be demand for it due to the great location. And of course, the houses right next to the train track are going to be cheaper. So it all kind of works out, I guess. And the pillars here are actually eating a bit onto the actual road. So one way I think we can fix this would be to just upgrade this to a regular road segment. So I think we're just gonna try that. And that is just going to, yeah, that's actually going to fix it. Make sure that the pillars don't cause us any issues. And while we're on it, let's just upgrade these segments here so that there's a bit of a uniform look, I guess you could say. And we'll do these two as well. And then we'll do a little cleanup here. Remove this hotel. And remove a couple of trees. We have a note here that I think if we just grab this note here, we'll be able to move that right underneath this elevated segment, and then we can just bring that down a bit so that there's more proper clearance for the cars, and that's pretty much it. With this piece of track in place, I'm actually thinking we should have an additional suburban station somewhere out here before we reach the final station out here in Kendrick. It's not going to see a lot of activity right now, but I mean, we are probably going to densify this as we continue the series here. So if we're smart about it and a bit foresighted, maybe just adding a small train station here would be a pretty good idea, actually. We have a stretch of regular road here. I'm just gonna disable Anarchy. Removes a ton of houses, which is a real... Oh, this is actually really elevated. Oh my... What? I mean, when you look at things from this angle and you have these mountains, they just mess with your perception. So I had no idea it was this elevated, actually. But, okay. I mean, we kind of have to fix that. I kind of need like a smoother elevation up to this point here. And maybe I need to elevate this main road here. Or actually, maybe this is fine, and we'll try to go above this road here, since we already do have some elevation to work with. I'm gonna remove these segments. I am going to remove a few more houses, I know. Then we'll pick the slope terrain tool, and I'm gonna find the level that this track is at. I'm gonna right click, and then I'm just gonna drag from all the way out here. And it's gonna be 5.2 incline, as you guys probably saw percentage wise, which is quite substantial, but there's not gonna be any freight trains here. It's gonna be relatively modern, high speed ish commuter trains. You know, I think they can manage. And click. How does that look? Well, it looks surprisingly good. I thought it would be more challenging to actually like get this fixed. I'm not gonna make this super smooth because I think this looks like it was an embankment that was actually purpose built. But since there's like a ton of elevation right here, I might just move the station. I'm gonna remove some more people. I know it's not great. We're just gonna delete the station. That is probably going to be the easiest approach right here. And there you go. That looks a tiny bit better, at least. Before we move on to Kendrick, I think something that would make sense here is that following the construction of this commuter rail line, which is within the past couple of decades, I guess, old McDonald here would probably have sold off his farmland to developers now that it's right next to a commuter station, and we might see some transit-oriented development here. So that would be development that has a bit of a higher density than the surroundings. I think in this case, we might even go for like proper medium density stuff. So cool. Let's just give that a go. I'm gonna add in just a few additional roads here. It's just gonna be this alley I created with a bit of parking on one side. And we'll just add in just a bit, maybe a road to... No, actually, I think this is fine. Don't want to make this like a high detail area. This is just to bring in a bit more population. But I do want to find some kind of somewhat modern looking apartment complex with some parking, probably some parking on it, because let's be real, people are also gonna have cars. Maybe this one, it seems to have, is that parking it has in the back there? It's actually pretty hard to see. I think we'll use this one, and I know it's kind of European looking, I'm aware, but we still have a relatively limited amount of assets, so we have to get creative, right? And maybe these can look a little more modern if they get some more exciting colors. Yeah, this is not too bad. Something like this. I think that's a pretty decent start. Maybe a developer has built a parking lot as well. Because why not? So I'll just add a medium parking lot. I'm gonna disable snapping here so that we can kind of place it directly in the center of this lot. And then I don't think we're gonna add anything else just yet. We might add a bit of surface here. You know, maybe they've recently kind of prepared the groundworks here for additional apartments, but they haven't quite finished that process yet. So it's just there's a bit of dirt here. They have probably prepared some sewage and some piping and whatnot, but no developments just yet. So there's really just a bit of dirt here. Don't really want these small bushes or trees though. I kind of need to get rid of those because they would certainly have been removed or wouldn't even have been here due to there being like a farm, right? So it's only when we get out here that we see a few trees and whatnot. And then they've probably planted some trees as part of this development, but I don't want them to be too big because, I mean, they were recently planted, right? It's not the most exciting new development, but I mean, it kind of does its job, right? So yeah, we're gonna leave as is, no more detailing. We are getting real close to Kendrick now, so I am going to do a slight adjustment to the lane here because the wonky shape of it is just going to make our train, the route for our train tracks unnecessarily complex. And there's really no reason for that, so we're just gonna move in with a complex curve, just make that a little easier. I don't mind having to do a crossing here because we only have one crossing like that down here, which could cause, you know, a traffic hiccup, but I don't expect it to because there's barely any traffic out here, at least right now. We may have an infrastructure challenge on our hand in the future if this becomes really populated, but it's not the case just yet. I'm thinking I'm gonna grab the continuous tool, zero elevation, and we'll just move through here, and I'll make sure to enable this one so we have our constant slope. But there's barely any elevation changes here, which is real nice. And let's see, I probably have to go above this road here. That is likely going to make the most sense. So let's just see if we can get up to about 5 meters at this point and then cross with around 7.5, I think. So that should be sufficient. Whoa, that's 7%. How is that even? And the elevation on this map is just actually, we're gonna do it a little differently then. I'm gonna make a straight segment here that crosses. I'm gonna grab this node, Control H to get to the height of, and that didn't work. I'm grabbing this node, Control H, hide to this node. Okay. Whatever, I'll just keep this segment in place, I guess. Then I'm gonna try and connect these two, and we'll see just how much of an elevation difference we actually have. So a complex curve moving out to around here and here and connect up. It's gonna be 4.6%, which is probably fine. It's actually, I mean, it's a little less than we had right before the train station. And as we look here, it really doesn't look all that dramatic. So I think we can manage. Then we need the new station out here in Kendrick. We have the nice school, the commercial avenue. And I know the original vote was for a custom station, but that's primarily because we didn't really have any other options. Now we do, so I'm thinking we're gonna go for something like this station here, which is really nice looking. And it's actually slightly different from the small train station as well, so we are gonna get a bit of variety in here. And I kind of want to place this right here. I'll select it and hopefully, yeah, I could raise it just a bit so it's at the very same level as the node for this road here. And that's pretty good. I mean, the big question now is whether we can just make a completely seamless connection with our double train tracks. Curve tool, find this point here, and I'm gonna see if I can get this figured out. It's a little tricky due to this currently unused road, I guess. We're just gonna remove that and try again. That's about it, I think. Pretty much, oh, a slight elevation change, but that's very, very slight. And there you have it. And I think I'm gonna add whatever upgrades and station service stuff I can to the new stations we have, just because. I mean, if it makes them a little more interesting visually, which does seem to be the case, then we're doing it. This one we can't upgrade, but I think that's fine. It's already quite interesting. All right, so there's definitely like some detailing and other things we could work on, but I think for starters, I just kind of want to establish this new train line just to kind of see if it's actually going to work. So we've got the end station out here. Let's just kind of get this mapped out and yeah, see how it functions. We're gonna add just maybe a single train, maybe two. Probably just gonna start with one. Wait a minute, can I? Oh, I can't. Oh, I can. Okay. It looked like I couldn't select that station for just a second, which would be a little unfortunate. Are we going to utilize this track here for once? I think so. It's only been used as like a through track up until now, but now we get an actual station. Click. I guess it's lagging a bit. It's just kind of mapping out the route. And complete. All right, we'll pause. Move into our train overview. So let's see, we have the Riverview Transit Authority. That's pretty much the same naming scheme for the entire metro area. So we'll just say RTA. Let's see, what is this? This is technically East, right? Eastern Press or something. I don't know. We're just trying things here. EU diesel passenger train. Let me get the diesel free car multiple unit. Yeah, let's just start with that then. And assigned vehicles 2. All right, let's just try. Hopefully they don't like spawn right next to each other, but you never know. Now we're just waiting for them to actually pop up, and then we can just kind of follow along. So we've got our very first car. Let's move over to it. And it is spawning from the Northport rail yard, which makes a lot of sense. And is this a mod that allows me to use the subway cars as train tracks, or is this just a new train? Oh, sorry, a train car we've gotten? I don't even know, to be honest. But I think it fits the commuter vibe real well. It is a diesel one, so it doesn't really use the catenary switch, but I mean, that doesn't matter, right? Now, if the simulation was working a little better here in slightly laggy Riverview, then it would be easier to see this line complete, but we are just gonna have to wait for a bit, and I'm gonna check if there are any issues with it. Now, would you look at that, guys? We made it all the way up to Kendrick without major issues. I'm sure you guys noted that there are a few hiccups along the way. There are a few segments where there's quite a bit of passenger and cargo rail traffic currently, which is causing some delays, which we probably need fixing. But I'm just happy to see that the train is actually here and we have some commuters that are ready to make it into the big city. Alright, so there are a few things to fix. One we've already identified. We have some stretches of the rail line here where we have a lot of train activity, but we don't have all that many tracks. I mean, here we just have a set of dual tracks leading into Riverview that carries a ton of different traffic, so we may want to expand that. I may want to add a little detail to this old rail yard. We may want to change up a few of the really old tracks here by the central train station that we haven't touched on for many episodes. And generally this area here is looking a little old and dated as well. I might want to do something with that, as well as detailing up the stations. So there are a couple of things I want to do, but I think we're gonna slap on some music and jump into a time lapse for all of this.
To walk
Alright, so I didn't do a ton of changes, but let's just take a quick tour of the ones we did implement. So I have upgraded the amount of tracks we have on the entirety of this stretch of the railway here, because this is by far the most busy place where we have this rail intersection, I suppose. Just a ton of cargo rail through here, as well as the existing passenger rail, so it gets kind of busy. Did the same expansion all the way over here to the rail yard, where we did a tiny bit of detailing. It's still very bare bones because, I mean, ideally I'm gonna move some of these tracks closer together. There's a bit too much distance in between, but I think this helped out a little bit. Now we still only have a double track here that moves through the yard, this redevelopment area. So we may have to maybe use the road builder to expand that to a free lane or free track, I guess, segment. But I think it works for now because this isn't actually as busy as the intersection a little more north near the North Port. So I think we'll manage. Maybe I think I did a few tweaks here to the existing tracks here, but not a lot. And then here we used the road builder mod to create a 4-track segment basically. And wow. I didn't even intend for it to be super busy as I'm recording this, but it's a little crazy currently, and that is an insane cargo train. Just look at how much that is carrying. 4.4 tons. Or is that 4.4 thousand tons? Yeah, that is 4.4 thousand tons. All right. But yeah, super busy here, even with the 4 tracks. But I guess this also highlights that if we just continued with our double track solution that we had at the very start of this episode, then this would have been a complete mess with this amount of traffic. So this has definitely improved, and I haven't changed the curves here, you know, these turns. I know they're still kind of sharp, but once again, it's a commuter train. I don't expect it to have issues making that turn. Let's see, I maybe added in a few trees or whatnot to downtown East Riverview, as well as placed this bad boy on this big empty lot, which is now officially the tallest building in East Riverview, which I think is pretty nice. And it kind of stands on its own as well, which adds a bit of uniqueness to the skyline. I quite like that. Anyways, I added a bit more new transit-oriented development up here. So, of course, this is just a row house that is supposed to look a little more modern by utilizing a different color scheme. Very low detailing. We might do more expansions here. And as I said, I do imagine that we're going to build up more of this area as we move along. So hopefully the train station we have here is going to see more use because, yeah, currently we have 4 passengers waiting, which isn't great. Anyways, we continue eastwards all the way out here to Kendrick. I didn't do any changes, but I mean, that's okay. We have some additional passengers here. I did expect this to be a little busier than the rural stop we added in here in Palmer Way, so that's as expected, I guess. Let's jump into implementing some of the wonderful feedback and suggestions from you guys. And we can start with a simple one, which is naming this lake here. I got a ton of great suggestions, but I think something that was rather simple and just makes a lot of sense given the narrative we established is to use this suggestion to name it Origin Lake. So this is probably a pretty brutal and simple English translation of what was originally a native named lake, of course. But I think given the fact that this lake, it changes behavior throughout the year and size when the snow melts and all the rainwater is led through these streams down the mountains, I just think it makes a lot of sense. And since we're here at Origin Lake, there was a suggestion to turn this segment into an actual dam. And I think that would make a ton of sense. I am a little hesitant at trying it because if you guys watched the previous episode, you know that since this is a river heavy map and there's such a massive elevation change, it takes very small disturbances to the current water flow before things start flooding. But I have saved the game, so I think we're just gonna go ahead and try this, and then we can reload if things turn really bad. So we are going to have to establish some nodes to kind of restrict the size of this dam, and I don't want it to be too wide. So if we add a node here and we add one here as well, then we'll pause the game. We'll try to remove this segment as well as these new stubs, and then I guess we kind of have to actually just flatten this, turn this into an actual part of our lake here, and then we'll move into electricity, hydroelectric dam, and we have to drag from left to right. And it's probably not gonna work without Anarchy. Oh, I need to go from right to left. Yeah, this got everything I'm saying. Get that placed. Just like that, and then let's see if we can, I mean, this one should be a simple straight connection. Oh yeah, and here we can hopefully go for a simple curve, 180, get that connected up. I mean, it doesn't look too bad. Question is if we should try and just maybe use move it to see if I can, is it actually possible to like squeeze it further together? No, I don't think so. All right, I'll get this connected up. This should be fairly easy. Do we have, can I use these small power lines? No, I probably just need to use the proper ones, but underground sections. Yeah, I'll lower these. Just get these connected. We'll grab this and just get, actually that is already connected up. So I'm not gonna make the mistake of detailing this up and making it look prettier before we know whether it actually works. So it is producing a tiny amount of electricity, which I guess is fine, because we don't want too much water to actually be able to pass through here, because that's when I'm gonna really worry about the flooding. So what I think we'll do is we will just let the game run at normal simulation speed. Not that it makes a lot of difference here on Riverview. And then we'll move into simulation, water, and we are going to increase. We're going to put this to max, and then we are going to see how this is actually going to settle, because there's quite a bit of water now moving down the stream that is going to enter the main river here. So yeah, I'm going to have to wait for a few minutes to see if this is going to cause any issues. Alright, so I've been monitoring the situation for a couple of minutes and haven't found any issues, and I've been really focused on Eastport, especially here near the fuel plant, where this rail yard is technically below the water level of this part of the river as it moves underneath the I-25. And then I've been looking at Crestwood, which is this suburb that is, you know, it's like 1 or 2 meters above water level, but no issues so far. So that's great. But I mean, if we check the actual water level here at the dam visually, it's also very, very low. You know, we don't have like a full stream going down here. So maybe we're in the clear. Obviously, I would have to revert it if we do encounter any issues, but at least for now, it seems to be working fine, and I kind of like this solution then. Very, very well. If we move down the stream and upriver a bit, we get to Parkdale, the small, old, semi-functioning industrial district we built in the previous episode. We're gonna combine a couple of suggestions here. So I think one, we're going to take some naming inspiration from here and just name it Burnley Point. That just sounds nice, I think. And then there are quite a few calls to actually add a quarry here, which is either still working or not, but just something that indicates that mining was what initially drew in the industrial settlement to actually settle on this side of the river here and actually, you know, utilize the small plateau we're seeing. So let's see, how do I do this? We add some specialized industry, and we're going for ore mining. Stone mining is actually probably the one we should be utilizing. Let's see how we're actually gonna place this. I'm gonna enable Anarchy, otherwise you can see how to remove all my fancy decals, and I really wouldn't want to do that. And then maybe we'll just try and place it here, and then let's see. Okay, so I'm just gonna try out a few things here and we're gonna see how that is actually going to work, because I'll just need to kind of specify, you know, a query area. Can I add, no, I can't see the contour lines, but I guess that's fine. I don't want to move too high up on the mountain, but otherwise we're gonna move real close to the existing industry here. And this is obviously not a very good look. So what I think we can do is we can use the level terrain tool and then do some really extensive terraforming here. So first I'm just gonna flatten the area that is like very close to the base of the quarry facility here. Then we're gonna grab a contour line that is a few meters up and we'll add a new kind of level basically. And 40 is probably too much. I mean, 20 is probably what we're getting at, because we need to move all the way up the mountain in this fashion here. It's gonna take a little while. I'm not gonna bore you guys too much with this, but let's just try this out. Well, I don't know if you guys can tell, but yeah, mining development's not really a strong suit for me, but it was a lot of fun actually building this. It's a very, very steep mine, isn't it? I've tried to like add some tracks from the trucks and the digging machinery and whatnot, but it's if you're a mining expert, close your eyes. But I think visually it looks kind of interesting, and I didn't want to overdo it. So I think we're gonna stick with this one. I added a bunch of like industrial props, non-functioning props, just to kind of make the whole base of operations here a little more detailed and a little more dense, and added in a few trucks as well. And I think overall I'm pretty happy with the look. It's not an area that we're gonna spend a ton of time on, but it's just it's nice having these like small areas that do feel kind of special and aren't necessarily part of like a greater city or anything like that. But I do think that's gonna be it for this episode. There were other nice, more substantial suggestions for what to do with the lake and the surrounding areas as well, and even expanding upon this industrial district. And we may implement some of them in the future, but they're of a greater scale than what I think we can squeeze into this mainly train-focused episode. So I'm pretty happy with what we've got done. Today we're just let's do a little checkup and see if there's actually any passengers on this line. 69%, that's actually not bad. It seems to have helped a bit to just drop the ticket price, but it's actually not bad. I'm really happy to see that this is functioning quite well, and also very happy that it wasn't as intrusive and destructive as I thought it would be. Also that we're starting to see like the first instances of transit-oriented development here in Riverview, which I definitely think we're gonna see more of in the future as the metropolitan area continues to grow. But without further ado, I'm gonna stop my rambling now and shoot some nice cinematics for you guys. I wanna thank you all for the wonderful feedback. As always, I really do appreciate it. I hope to see you all in the next one. Goodbye.